We're live here. This is Premier Debate. I'm John Scoggin, and this is a new series we're doing called Get to Know a Judge. It's going to let you know about the background of a judge, learn about their preferences beyond the paradigm, maybe some useful stories to help you out and give you a peek at what goes on in rounds that you're not in. Just to introduce myself real quick, I'm, again, John Scoggin, coach at Loyola High School, director of Premier Debate. I've coached a lot of people. I coached last year's TOC champion. I've coached 2 TOC finalists and, kids that have won all types of tournaments, triple digit bids, stuff like that. I'm here with Varad Agarwala. He won 3 octas bid tournaments, cleared at the TOC 3 times, qualified to the NDT. Students have won a million things. I think he had a sophomore in octas last year. Is that right?
I think so, something like that.
Not too bad. Welcome. We're excited to have you and talk to you today.
Hello.
Varad is going to be joining us instructing at the invitation week this year. Are you excited?
I'm pretty excited. It's a different format from any other camp that I've done, so I'm really interested to get to work with a smaller group of kids and spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah, it's a blast, and a ton gets done. For those of you that don't know, it's Premier Debate's exclusive one-week campus, top lab only. We invite top debaters and occasionally standouts from our normal summer camp. If you're looking to go to summer camp, make sure to check us out, premierdebate.com. Anyway, so let's get into it. I read your paradigm extensively. So how do you feel about that?
Well, you're probably more prepared than I am then, but I think I can defend my views.
Yeah, so we're going to get into the really hard-hitting questions right away here. I noticed that you like to be brought food and you have a Cal-specific list, and I just wanted to praise you for your choice of top dog in the #1 slot. I mean, it's
I think
obviously the correct choice.
Pretty good incentive. It's a full speaker point in exchange for food. I just think that's obviously worth it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if I think that you should find yourself getting some delicious food.
This is a low-key plug for that for anyone listening.
Yeah, I thought I would get that out there into the public for your benefit. And now I got, just to stick on the food thing real quick, we have a lot of vegetarians and vegans in the debate community. If you were making a recommendation at the Cal tournament, you got anything for them?
Indian food for sure. There's a couple Indian places on Telegraph Street. I think one is the one we went to. I think
we did.
House of Curry and Flavors of India. Both of those places are fantastic.
Yeah, I want to say House of Curry is on Durant, but
yeah.
it's in that general area. Well, okay. So now to get into some of the debate-related topics, one thing that stuck out to me that I actually find to be true about myself, and I thought was an interesting comment, is that you really like impact turn debates. Can you unpack that a little bit for me?
Sure. I just think that a lot of students don't really substantively have a defense of their impacts. A lot of kids just read, the most recent, impact card that people have been using and don't understand the warrants or the international theory behind it. And I think that impact turn debates force people to substantively defend those things and are also just super interesting because, I think it's a very small debate in terms of the scope, but it goes super in depth, and those are always my favorite and the most interesting.
I've noticed this in a lot of successful debaters and coaches that they'll make a statement like, you should be prepared to defend every part of your advocacy. And what do you think? What do you think? What do you think it's about those, highly successful people that are so meticulous about what's in the case? Like, what do you think that impulse is about?
I mean, I think this is just about a fundamental way you view debate. I actually don't think being AF is as hard as people say it is, but I think that most people's problems is that they don't write their 1ACs very well. And so obviously it makes the 1AR super hard because they don't have their AF to utilize because they didn't write it particularly well. I think that one thing my coaches definitely taught me early on in my career is that every single card in the AF needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a strategic element that you can use in the 1AR depending upon, the generic 4 or 5 positions that you're likely going to debate every single tournament. And I think that that's just something I think about when I approach writing affirmatives is even what impact I use, how can I utilize this against the generic DAs that people are reading? And I think that's a big problem in debate is people do not give that enough thought.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I also think it's a great drill to just kind of go through all the cards in your AF case and practice, giving like long elaborations on them in the 1AR and trying to use them to the maximum potential. Because if you can't, discuss how important a particular card is, you should put something else in there.
Exactly. And I think that you quickly realize also how repetitive so many cards in your AF are because they all serve the same purpose when you could just have one good card and make a ton of other arguments.
100% agree with you. All right. Well, back to the impact turn debates. Do you have any particular impact turn that is your favorite, or you don't think people are running enough?
I mean, one of my the more common ones, but still one of my favorites is the classic DDev debate.
Yep.
I love DDev debates. They're super interesting to me, and I actually think that there's a lot of validity on both sides. I don't think it's as ridiculous as people think it is, and so those are some of my favorite debates. Some crazy impact turns. I remember on the nuclear power topic, we impact turned nuclear meltdown. And we were like, nuclear meltdowns are good, and those cards were fun to cut.
Oh wow! What was the scenario?
It was just the low-level radiation it gives off is key to solve disease or something ridiculous like that.
Whoa, okay. I'm not familiar with that one, but I like it.
That's crazy people, as long as we got cards.
Yeah. It's always good to push the boundaries of what is and isn't a good argument. All right. So the next thing that stuck out to me in the paradigm was your discussion of Perm double bind. Just quickly, can you explain that to someone who's listening who might not know what that argument is?
Yeah, sure. So the Perm double bind is traditionally read as just Perm do the alt in every instance except for the affirmative. And either one of two things is true. Either one, the alternative is as strong as you say it is, that it can solve, for example, all of anti-blackness or all of legalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if it's as strong as you claim it is, that means that the tiny instance of the affirmative, which is just one policy, if that is able to, derail the alternative and it means it doesn't solve at all, it means that either A, the alt, inevitably will fail, or B, the alt is so strong it would just overwhelm the AF and it would make the AF irrelevant. I actually think there's this funny way Victor G came up with a way to describe it to some of our kids.
To people who don't know, Victor, Brentwood coach, lawyer, winner of the Amazing Race. What do you know? What season?
I don't know what season.
A little while back, but overall, a very intelligent and prolific debate coach.
Yeah, and I thought he came up with a very apt way of describing it for novices or people who don't really know a lot of debate jargon. And it's just like if you were to say create these super diet pills that are able to solve for all of obesity and just instantaneously, and you were to eat like a couple of chicken nuggets. Like chicken nuggets might not be the best food for you because they're fried, but if you have a diet pill that solves all of obesity, like do a couple of chicken nuggets like really matter? And I think that that was sort of a good way for novices to be able to describe it, and that was successful for a lot of our novices whenever they tried explaining it in rounds.
Yeah, that's a good teaching technique. I might have to steal that one.
Huh. Yeah.
Okay, so the second part of this question is just my little thesis there. I find that people's view on the Perm double bind and how they see Perm double binds debate acts as a bit of a Rorschach test for how you feel about critique alternatives.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Is that okay? Okay, and I guess I should explain that quickly. The Rorschach test, like those ink blotter things that you look at it, and then supposedly what you see has to do with your personality. I don't know if it's good science or whatever. I don't know enough about the Rorschach test, but I just thought
good description though for the Perm double bind in this context, though. Very accurate.
Yeah, like if you love critique alternatives, you think this argument is just a generic garbage argument that never wins. If you really don't like most critique alternative, you just sort of think it's true all the time. So it's a bit it's a bit of a difficult argument to know exactly what to do with in debate.
And I think the divide more so is also between judges that have a higher threshold for people explaining their alternatives versus people who just like are okay with assertions that are just like, wow, we like overthrow capitalism, you know?
What do you think is with the tendency for LD judges to not require as in-depth of explanation on alternatives?
So, I mean, I think this is more of an ideological thing than anything. I truly believe judges. My big problem with judges is I believe that debaters should be held accountable for their explanations and not what, like, their cards say, or, what judges sort of interpret those explanations to be. And I feel like a lot of debaters, especially on the critique, get away with large amounts of explanation that were not given on very complicated theories where, debaters, should be held accountable for explaining those complicated theories. At the end of the day, an argument is an argument and the critique is no separate. And I think that you have to ground those abstract concepts in pragmatic ways. And I think one of the most, at least the two most revealing things for me in terms of the K debate and this concept of not explaining things is the impact debate, where I don't think I rarely ever heard a K debater extend an impact properly in my life, or the alternative, in which I at the end of most debates have no clue what it does.
Yeah, no, I feel that way, and you got at something that that speaks to a question I was going to ask you, and also is something in your paradigm, like long argumentative overviews, especially in the 2NR. I know I'm making this a little bit about me right now, but I think that might be the single worst thing to have happened to debate in the last 2 years. What do you think?
I agree. I substantially agree with that. I just think long overviews are literally the death of debate, because it makes, it just a monologue between two people, and there's no actual like substantive clash between two ideas because they're never compared, and kids just read the long overview that they read every single debate and like hope the judges can figure it out.
Yeah, and it's well, the one thing, the idea that you could read it in every debate, to me is just like such an insult.
I know.
The debate, right? Like, it's like, so you think that no matter what the 1AR does, this, secret code of words is going to win? And also, like, if you're, and I mean, I understand these apply to both sides, but I find it particularly egregious on the negative. So let's say if you've read all of your 1NC and then you're reading this in the 2NR, like, when did you do that? Like, when did you do the debating, or am I just deciding that your team's blocks are good?
No, and like, I mean, I feel like coaches, especially like myself in particular, are guilty of this. And, we write a lot of blocks for our kids and stuff like that. But I do not think that necessarily trades off with, specific analysis of 1AR arguments. I think good block writing creates multiple different versions of overviews and multiple different versions of their blocks, depending upon the way that the 1AR answers their argument. So my big problem also is not just blocks. It's like you can do that prep time and that thinking and that analysis before the debate and write your blocks as such. But I feel like most debaters are just relying on blocks right now as a crutch instead of, an actual, strategic tool.
Well, yeah, and to me, it's one thing if in the 2NR you're at least tasked with, instead of reading the same overview, you have to go between multiple blocks that you helped create, figure out which are the best ones to read, which one not to read, like that. Then you're doing debate work, in my opinion. But
I agree. No, and I feel like that's why I'm not a big fan of overviews, is I feel like a lot of the arguments in the overview should just be on the line by line. They answer arguments there. You should not, I'm not going to do that application for you. And I feel like two things more judges should just feel comfortable doing. One is just actively being like, you did not explain this. I don't get this, so I'm not going to vote for it. And the second thing being, judges just need to be able to recognize when they're filling in the blanks on certain arguments. And I feel like judges right now are not cautious enough about that.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think we've covered it. And I don't, if we go on this much longer, it will become a rant, which maybe it already did. But The next question I wanted to ask you is about theory debate. I basically that you had a bunch of references to it in your paradigm, and I'm distilling all these references to why is theory debate so bad right now? Like what or how can it be changed? How is it different than it was even a few years ago? And what do you think could be changed about it so that it's done in a way that's better for judges to evaluate?
I mean, I'm not sure I have a good view in terms of the historical progression of theory. In my view, the like biggest difference is just that theory's gotten a lot blippier and shorter now. But I
Mm.
feel like it's always been that way to some degree. Even when I was a sophomore, Rom would read theory in a way that's very similar to the way debaters read it now.
Oh, shout out to Ram Prasad. Yeah, he would read. He would read.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most notable example for me when I was a young debater. But
I
uh,
have to admit, I have to cop to partial responsibility for that because I was Ram's lab leader for
oh, really?
3 years, I think. Yeah, and so that was a bit my fault. But I mean, he took it beyond.
How to do that? PDI this summer. That's
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
yeah.
PermDebate.com.
There you go. Yeah, I love the plug.
But my big thing with theory now is I just like I think arguments still need to be arguments at the end of the day. And I think our standard for what a theory argument is has gotten so just incompetently low. Like it blows my mind. And I feel like this manifests in terms of my views on debate in two ways. One is I believe that reasonability is severely underutilized. And I think that theory arguments can be used as examples of why reasonability is true. I had one debate in particular where I just approached like a breaking point. And it was just like the interp was like, you can't have cards highlighted in multiple colors. So you can't have one card highlighted in red and another card highlighted in like blue or something like that. And I was just like, it's like, why? It's just like, I just, and like, yes, there was a theory standard. Yes, there was an argument, but like, did I really fly this many miles to listen to debate about like what color kids should highlight their cards?
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I just think it's a travesty for like the kids that, and again, like, there's this argument that I always get into with people that's like, debates should just be strategic and fun, and theory is just another tool of that. And I'm like, that might be true, but at the end of the day, there's a topic, and like kids did research, and you shouldn't just ignore that research because that's what debate's about. I think that's what debate should be about, at least.
yeah. I feel you there. And at some point, like as a judge, judging is hard. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of time. In terms of LD, you're often doing it twice as much as all the kids that are there. And it's like you do your best to pay attention and to like really carefully evaluate arguments. And so when someone that is pretty good at debating is just saying a bunch of stupid stuff to you, it feels a bit like, come on, man. Like,
oh my God, I've judged so many like quote unquote good debates this year, and I've just been appalled by some of the 1ARs I've seen.
yeah, it's and it's like I under the debate round is about you guys, but like why do you have to do me like this? Can't you make it a little more pleasant on us?
No, I agree.
Okay. So the last thing on your paradigm that stuck out to me was prep time. I know there's a lot of judges going either way on like what is prep time and what is not. I took it from the tone of your paradigm that you're starting to get kind of fed up with the prep stealers.
Yeah. No, I am. I like I showed up to judge a debate that was supposed to be like 45 minutes long, and some of these debates are like an hour and 10 minutes because of this. And I'm like, you do not get that much extra prep time, but B, I should not have to sit through this as we awkwardly sit through here for a couple minutes. As for some reason, it takes you a solid 5 minutes to delete a couple of cards from the doc. Like, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Something, I don't know. I've started timing. I'm just like, no, it's my timer is the timer now. Maybe that makes me officially a dinosaur, but
No, I mean, like, I guess I just don't have enough, you know, effort in my soul to do that.
that's a lot. It's actually, you have to think about it a lot more than you would.
Yeah, no. I like when I first started judging, tried to do that, and I just realized quickly I couldn't. For me, I've decided prep time is the time it takes you to compile and construct the doc. Once that is done, saving it, all of that is not prep time. You can end prep time there. And emailing it and stuff is not. But like my big problem with deleting stuff after, a speech is I believe at the end of the day, debate is a communicative and oral activity. You should not, if you have the material that they read and you're reading and they read out of the same doc you have, there's no reason why you should not be able to tell or know what cards they've read. It is your responsibility.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just like in frustration if I'm going through like a minute and a half long, what did you read? What you didn't read? I'll be like, didn't read this card and this card. Now let's have cross checks.
Yeah, no. Like I'm
like you can figure it out. I've told you the two things.
No, I totally agree. And so my belief is that given that I believe it's their responsibility, that also means it's prep time for you.
Yeah, and I'll also say people ask me all the time, like, how do I get good speaker points? I will say, and I don't know how you feel about this, but if you avoid these types of shenanigans, hey, maybe that might help you out a little bit.
No, I agree. And honestly, like I've judged a couple of, I think like at a couple of West Coast tournaments, shout out to a couple of the Harker novices that I've judged that are not even novices, like sophomores and maybe some juniors. Just like, it's not even been a very like insane debate or anything like that, but they just straight up debated, did their thing, didn't steal any prep time. And it was just like, wow, like I didn't have to, get frustrated with a kid like, oh, my timer didn't start or something like that. Or
I'll echo the props to the Harker debaters. They're very good at the process. So good job, Greg Ayton, and all of your staff. You have trained them well.
Yeah, but that's just been something that's definitely been enjoyable in terms of judging this year.
Okay, so we got a shout out question here from a celebrity question from Bob Overing. And it's a little bit of a loaded question, so don't take it too personally. He wants to ask you what has happened to big stick util debating, and is its relative less commonness partially your fault?
Partially my fault?
I don't know. It's this question.
What? I think there should be more of it. I don't know how it would be my fault, but I definitely think that it's died off, and I think that is definitely unfortunate because I think that I've judged a couple of really, really good big stick util people this year, but sans those rare moments, it's non-existent almost. Everyone seems to be a huge fan of the structural violence AF. I'm kind of sad that the good old just big stick hedge AF has gone away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of having a little bit more, but I don't know. I feel like it's
I truly
had a bit of a comeback on JanFeb.
Yeah, I mean the court clog stuff gives you.
I hear econ impacts.
My mind is truly still blown that court clog good is the like core topic AF. Yeah, no, but people are trying to be util, but I guess they're kind of successful at it. Like I think that most people, and this sort of references back earlier to the thing I said about the impact turn debate, but people don't understand the value of just having a good one big advantage util AF that just has a long util framework and a long advantage that how to defend and better than your opponent.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good strategy, and it sounds like it would be a good strategy debating in front of you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think people are far too ideological and think that some arguments are just silly when they really aren't. Like, I think extinction outweighs against the K. Some people scoff at that argument, and some people, think it's just true. And I think more people need to just be in the middle And
Yeah.
I feel like I personally think I enjoy judging those debates because I think I did both of those debates, and I was a fan of them.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing that you said. I think there's all too often people think what I do is good debate, and thus it's okay that I criticize everything else, and
Yeah.
that my arguments don't leave space for anything else. And it's like, no, I think no matter what type of debater you are, that you should have a basic level of humility, that there's a bunch of other real people trying to, do for good reasons a different type of debate. And if it's in your mindset that they're all bad, then, you should reevaluate your.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly fell into the other camp early on in my career. I definitely was more on the, oh, like policy debate is the only real debate and Phil debate just stupid, right? And I mean, like, I've gone a long way since then, as partial help from my freshman Phil class that finally taught me a little bit about Kant. But no, I finally like I genuinely, when I have to judge, despite the fact that I never did Phil debate, basically, sans once or twice, I try and genuinely put in effort and understand both sides because I see value in the Phil debate, and I've judged Kant and Ripstein like a surprising amount this year. I'm still not completely sure what the omnilateral will is, but I like genuinely think more judges should give opposing ideas and perspectives more validity than they do now.
Totally agree. All right, just to wrap this up, I'm gonna give you three quick hitters. So let's try to go a little rapid fire here.
All right.
Name one new debate trend you love and one you hate.
I'm not really too up to date with the debate trends, but new debate trend I hate.
Okay? So I was gonna get to this at the end, but you judged 40 debates on GenFeb. So
Oh, I did. That's a
you,
lot of
you
debates.
judged 40 debates. So I think
Oh no. Okay, so I
you're
guess
familiar.
one thing I hate, I guess, is the like infinitely regressive theory arguments people are starting to read about things that happen outside of the debate.
Yeah.
No, and that's ironic coming from me, given that I love disclosure theory, but I think that there are differences that, are important, but we can't get into right now. But I think that, little tiny theory arguments about things that happen outside of the debate are getting a little bit ridiculous.
Sure. And one trend you love.
One trend I love, uh, Scoggin, what are some trends in debate? I'm not
Whoa, okay, you're turning the tables here. What are some trends?
I don't know any like new trends. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I see. I see like more creative counterplans. I love that.
Oh, more process counterplans, I guess. That's like a new thing I've seen, at
Yeah.
least.
Okay, cool. What do you, if someone is only looking to improve in front of you, so if they were going to debate every debate round in their career in front of you, what would they do to improve?
Collapsing, I think.
Okay.
Collapsing in the 2NR and the 2AR. I think most people need to realize debates are not about more than two or three issues. A lot of the line by line and blips don't really matter, and being able to like remove yourself from being a flow bot and understanding the most important issues.
Yep. 100% agree. And then the last thing is, what should people know about you that you think is important in debate? Like what motivates you, or what has motivated you to be in debate, and what's that underlying good thing that you believe in?
I mean, I think debate is great because I think debate is at its best when people actually care about debate. And I don't mean that in like, oh, you should care about, the integrity of the activity, blah, blah, blah. Like all of those things are important. But I think, some of my favorite tournaments were my, sophomore, junior year when there were a lot of people at the tournament who really cared about debate, about winning, about the topic, doing research, and all the different reasons why they were there, and, express that in the way they were debating. A couple of notable people for me were like Arjun and Akil, Pranav, and Danny, and all of them who were I looked up to because I was younger than them, and they were all the better debaters than me. And they all really cared about debate, and you could see that in the way they approached debate. They were constantly drilling, constantly doing better research, trying to figure out more about the topic. And, that manifested in every single debate. It was enjoyable for judges to judge them because they always knew what they were talking about. And I think that, far too many people are relying on generics, on not doing research, on just bad theory arguments, even when it comes to the K, reading the same generic critique and no specific links to the topic. It's just kind of boring to judge after a while.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. All right, and then we may edit this part out at the end here, but I looked over your judging record because I have some hypotheses about this topic, and I wanted to just bounce them off you real quick. So you judged 40 debates on Jan-Feb, including, God bless, 13 at the Harvard Westlake.
Oh my God, that was terrible. Oh my God.
I'm glad you made it out alive, my friend.
It was a long weekend.
Yeah. So at Harvard Westlake, 13 debates, 7 AF wins. Cal, you judged 11 debates, 2 AF wins. Overall on the topic, 40% AF, 60% neg. Is there just not enough on the AF on this topic?
I don't even know if that is true. I just think kids are just reading this court clog AF, and it's just bad. And I think that basic questions are being asked by the negative, and a lot of AFs just can't answer them. And, questions such as what reforms occur post the crash? And people are just like, oh, reforms will occur. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. What reforms magically are going to solve for all of mass incarceration and, criminalization? And a lot of negatives are trying to figuring out these basic questions that they need to ask. But, I still don't think enough people are.
So what do you think? It's random chance? You think, or because I think I don't know. I need to do the same analysis on myself, but I think I'd found myself voting neg more often as the topic progressed.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's partially a result of A, kids not doing enough AF innovation, and B, negs being able to just have a couple of DAs that they get really good at and just coming up with strategies, and AFs are sort of put in a corner because the AFs that are on this topic are not particularly good, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, that will conclude our Get to Know a Judge segment with Varad. Any parting words?
I don't think I have any in particular. Just good luck to the kids competing in the postseason, NDCA and the TOC, and their state tournaments.
All right. Yep. Good luck to everyone that's still competing. And if you have another judge in mind that you'd like us to interview, get a little more insight, you can go ahead and post that in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been Premier Debate. Better Get to Know a Judge with Varad.